Chapter 4. The Horrible Quicksand Monster. And so it was that Drover and I left the ranch forever, turned our backs on worry and responsibility, and went out into the big wide world to find our true loves. We hit the creek just south of the house and followed it east through the home pasture. When we came to Parnell Water Gap, Drover slipped under the fence and I stood there a moment looking back. Goodbye, old ranch. We gave you our best for a lot of years. That was more than you deserved. And on this spot we take a solemn oath, never to return. I scooted under the fence and we continued our journey. That was real good, Hank. That stuff about the solemn oath. You like that? Would you believe I just composed it on the spot? No kidding? You mean you didn't have any to think about it or anything? Nah. It just by George popped out of my mouth. We went on down the creek, and after a bit, Drover said, "What happens if we decided we wanted to go back to the ranch?" I gave him a sideward glance. What happens is that we can't go back. Ever. Period. But we might change our minds. No, you don't understand solemn oaths, Drover. Once you've taken a solemn oath, you're bound to it for life. There's no turning back once you've taken an oath. Yeah, but what if we did turn back? As far as I know, it's never been tested. We just don't know what might happen. But it would be very bad. Why? Oh, I kind of miss the ranch. We just left the ranch. I know, and that's about the time I started missing it. Well, shake it off and toughen up, because we ain't going back. I'm kind of hungry, too. I stopped and glared at him. Hungry? How can you be hungry at a time like this? I don't know. He started crying. But I'm hungry, and I'm homesick, and I want to go back to the ranch. I should have known better than to bring you along. You got no guts, Drover. No backbone. No sense of adventure. I know it, he blubbered. I'm a failure. I've always been a failure. Can I go home now? Sure, go on. You'd be doing me a big favor if you left right now, and the sooner, the quicker. He sniffed and wiped his eyes with a paw. Thanks, Hank. You'll be better off without me. Indeed I will. You'll be sorry, of course, when I tell you about all my adventures. I know I will. He started slinking back towards the water gap. Bye, Hank, and good luck. And good riddance to bad rubbish. He went his way, and I went mine. I must have gone, 20 or 50 paces when I had a change of heart. I hated for Drover to miss this opportunity. I mean, the little mutt had lived such a sheltered life. He needed a chance to widen his horizons. I looked back to the west and caught up to him. You feeling better now? Yeah, now that I'm going home, I feel great, except I'm still hungry. We'd just about reached the water gap by this time. I'm feeling a little gant myself, Drover. Tell you what we're gonna do. About a mile east of here, there's a low water crossing. Let's me and you hot-footed over there, and if you really want to, I'll teach you how to live off the land. I never did that before. That's the whole point. See, what you don't know is the world's just full of food. Berries, roots, fish, wild game, you name it. And it's all out there, waiting for us to find it and eat it. Do you think they're going to have much luck doing that? Really? Drover, once you're living off the land, you'll never want another chunk of co-op dog food. No fooling. Trust me. And then can I go home? Yes. We'll definitely take that under advisement at the proper time. Come on, let's go. He hesitated and looked over the fence. Well, it might be fun. And I sure am hungry. That's the spirit. Let's motivate. We headed down the creek again, this time at a faster clip. I kept glancing over at Mr. Homesickness and half expecting to go over another attack, but I guess he was just thinking about food. When a guy thinks from his gut, it changes his whole attitude. We reached the crossing across towards the middle of the afternoon. It was kind of like a cement dam. You know, those things that go over the water that's just like really hard and blocks the water off. Well, it was like that, see? With this little country road going over the top. And there was a little pool of water backed up behind it. When we walked up to the pool, we could see these little small perch and minnows swimming around. You see that, Drover? This creek is alive with food. It is everywhere. Our biggest problem is going to be trying to decide whether we want frog legs, minnows, crawdads, or fish for supper. I want a big fish. You want a big fish? By George, we'll get you one. How big of a fish do you want? Oh, 3 or 4 pounds ought to be plenty. A 4-pounder be all right? Coming right up. Watch me close and study your lessons. I figured the quickest way to teach that runt was to demonstrate. I mean, lectures and classroom stuff have their place, but there's no substitute for real live on-the-spot training. I chose a place where the bank was maybe 2 feet above the water. I crouched down in the tall grass and directed my unusually keen vision towards the pool below. The dark green tint of the water told me that it was a deep hole. See, if you want little fish, you gotta go shallow water. But if you're stocking those 4-pounders, you got to set up shop over a deep hole. This is fairly common knowledge among experienced hunters like me, but I had to explain it to Drover. Now, all we have to do is wait. Gosh, that sounds easy. You're catching on, son. You're gonna love this easy life and just wait until you sink your teeth into that nice 4-pounder. I was crouched on the bank, my muscles cocked and ready to explode. All I needed was a victim. The minutes passed. Herds of minnows swam past, little perch, a couple small bass, water spiders, more minnows and more minnows. I was just about to fall asleep. Then I saw something large. This was no minnow, no measly perch. It was big. Every muscle in my highly conditioned body waited for the command to strike. It was a turtle. How would you feel about a nice mud turtle for supper, Drover? I don't like mud, Hank. I'm starving. Patience, son. Look, what's right behind the turtle. This was it, the one we had been waiting for. A huge, enormous, fat fish. There's our fish, I whispered. Range, 6 feet. Depth, 18 inches. Bearing 0200. Speed just about my right. Ready. Aim. Banzai! I exploded out of my attack position, reached maximum altitude, leveled up, straightened out, and began my plunge towards the unsuspecting fish as I streaked towards the water in a graceful arc. The fish appeared even larger than before. Indeed, the thought crossed my mind that Drover and I together wouldn't even be able to eat him. Most experts regard fish as fairly stupid animals, yet we must give them credit for having a certain dull-witted instinct for survival. Even though my attack was perfectly planned and flawlessly executed, somehow the fish got wind of it, and with one flick of his tail, he vanished. Canceling the mission at that point was out of the question. I mean, you get into some heavy physics with thrust and forces and vectors and all this other stuff that's very complicated college stuff, too complicated to get into. It's the kind of stuff we deal with every day in the security business. But the point is that once you get a mass of pure muscle traveling downward at a high rate of speed, the physical forces unleashed can't be reversed. Furthermore, in the event that
Here's what I found online.
Furthermore, in the event that someone miscalculated the depth of the water, this projectile is likely to enter the creek, pass through the shallow liquid, and strike the bottom with tremendous force. So he's saying that he's going to hit the bottom of the pool going really hard if he doesn't slow down. That derned creek wasn't nearly as deep as I thought. Never mind what color it was. I buried my nose. What do you think he buried it in? I buried my nose in 6 inches of mud on the bottom. And before you laugh at my misfortune and pass it off as just one of life's many jokes, let me point out just how serious it is when a guy gets his nose buried in 6 inches of mud under the danged water. Okay, first of all, your nose doesn't just pop out of the mud, right? And second of all, it's very hard to breathe when you're trapped in deadly quicksand. Well, mud. And third of all, statistics, tickles. Numbers collected by governmental agencies showed that most of the people and animals who drowned between 1945 and 1984 had their heads underwater. Most of them, they had to have their heads underneath water to drown. So laugh if you wish, but this was a life-threatening situation. I could have very easily, by George, drowned. No ordinary dog could have gotten out of that pit with deadly quicksand. I mean, that stuff didn't just hold me. It was trying to suck me down, deeper and deeper. I tried to call for help, but as you might have already surmised, that didn't work. I kicked all 4 legs in the air. I thrashed, I fought, I twisted and turned and flailed in the water, and with each thrash and frail, my life inched closer to darkness and doom. I repeat, no ordinary dog could have escaped this gruesome death. I did. Just follow the logic to its conclusion. When you have logic doing your talking, you don't need to brag. With only seconds of life left, I tore myself from the clutches of the deadly quicksand monster, and before he could get me again, I staggered out onto dry land. Drover was there wagging his tail. "Did you catch the fish? How'd you get all that mud on your nose?" Gasping for breath, I collapsed on the bank. "Never mind the danged fish. Don't go near that water. Horrible quicksand monster tried to kill me. Fought him off. Just barely made it." Drover rolled his eyes around. "Where'd he go?" "Water. Deep. Bottomless pit. Stay back." "Hank, I want to go home." "No, it's all right." Whipped him. Ran back into the pit. "Just one thing, Drover." "What?" At last I caught my breath. "Under the circumstances, I think it would be a good idea for us to just have minnows for supper." That's the end of chapter 4. So his fishing didn't really end up that well. I wonder what's going to happen. Is Drover going to go back to the ranch? Are they going to be successful in finding food, or are they going to give up early? Well, we'll find out. In chapter 5 is titled The Lovely Miss Scamper, and we'll continue on later. Catch y'all later.